anything wrong.
Bleep out all the bad words.
No, I don't have that kind of time.
We've been told not to go there. Yeah, which means we need to be quiet. Okay, I guess this is everybody. This is the session on the Samantha Module. So if you're not intending to be in the Samantha Module session, then here's your opportunity to run away. But the Samantha Module, basically what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what you would go through for software inspection. So if you go and look up the rules, look up your sheet, you've got hardware inspection sheet, you've got software inspection sheet. And both of them you go through before you work through before a competition. And this is essentially the software inspection part, which is making sure you have the correct programs in your NXT brick, that you have everything set up on your laptop if you've got that. That's more for you at the shop. And that you can connect to the network. And that's actually where the Samantha comes into play. So you guys are new, right? So you have you seen Samantha?
Yes, I have seen it.
You have seen Samantha. Okay, this is a Samantha V1, which is perfectly fine. This happens to be our brand new Samantha, which we just got this year. And this is a V2. Are they really that different other than the case? I don't believe so. The guts are all the same. If you get one that breaks, they're fun to take apart. And if you get one that breaks, you can also get them replaced, by the way. You can obtain one a year as a team. So you're limited to that. So if you have one that breaks, you have to work for the system to get it replaced. How in FTC, your NXT brick communicates with the field during your teleop session. Also, the field control system software triggers your autonomous program at game start, triggers your stop to your autonomous program at the end of that period so the judges can score, and it also is how we launch the teleop session, and it kills your robots at the end of play. And so we do all that through the field control system after you're connected to it, and that's during competition. In your shop, do you need to worry about that? No, because you'll be connecting to your robot through the same system, either through Robot C or LabVIEW. And you can drive them now. I know you can drive the Robot C. I don't use the LabVIEWs. And we can drive directly. So right here is the team resource page, and this is where we get access to the field control system, which you'll have to install. So if you're doing this back at your shop, you want to come down to, this is underneath, you go to the FTC section, and you go underneath Team Resources. That's what this section is. And down here is under the Field Control System, you'll see the Field Control System version 306 download. You want to download that and install it on the laptop. This is the laptop that you're going to program your Samantha with, and that you're going to basically use to connect to. So if you've got programming laptops where you're using Robot C, you're using LabVIEW, you want to install this on those laptops as well, and then your students can directly connect. There's a video here that'll walk you through getting started. It talks a little bit specifically about the Cisco routers. Do you have to use the Cisco routers? No, you do not have to use the Cisco routers. You can use any router that'll do 802.11b. That's the important part. The router has to support 802.11b. So those fancy new AN routers are not going to work. So you want something essentially old and slow, if you want to think of it that way. Once you get into your router, you want to do your wireless configuration. And let's see here.
Look like he's got a big server sitting in there.
I run server on here, yes I do. So the important part that you need to remember when you install your field control system is you'll get the control system icon, which you can't really see because the lights are on. And then you'll see these two shortcuts for the competition network configuration and the Samantha network configuration. Competition network configuration will take care of at competitions, so your FTAs will deal with that for you. FTA will take care of the competition network.
What does that mean?
Hmm?
What does FTA mean? What does FTA stand for?
He's the most important guy at the competition.
Okay. Is that you?
That'll be me in the east. You'll see me on the east side. You'll see Tom at some of the some of the larger competitions.
This year.
Oh, you're not doing it this year? You'll probably please.
So the FTA is the guy who's responsible for all of the field and the electronics that go with it and making sure everything stays working. He's the head troubleshooter at the event.
Okay, thanks.
We don't take care of sound system or stuff like that. We just worry about making sure the field runs. Please turn up.
Yep.
So your router configuration, I've got this router up here, right here, and I've called him FTC PIT. You can call them whatever you want. You put the SSID of the router in this configuration. If you missed where I got here from, this is the regular network config icon, which is actually over here behind me, which we can fix that. Let's do that over. And you'll put your SSID up there, whatever it is.
FTC pit.
Yep, you're right, I did get that, thank you. That's why you're here, aren't you, Greg?
Yes. Keep you honest.
If you're running authentication on your wireless, back in your shop, you could probably leave it open without much of a hitch. And Samantha will connect up really nice. But most of the time, you're going to be doing, if you turn security on, you want to do WPA security. You want to set it for WPA PSK, that's the personal shared key. So, and then whatever password you put on your router, you will also enter in here. And you would type in whatever your password is.
So all you're doing here is whatever you set up the router, you're setting up your Samantha dimension.
Okay. The other important part that is a stumbling block is a USB drive. Smaller drives work better because the Samantha's got to look through the whole drive to find a little setup file. So usually they recommend a 4 gigabyte drive or smaller. And you want to have it formatted FAT32. FAT doesn't work, but FAT32 works really well. And then while this program, and then what this program is going to do, the config program, it's going to automatically, when you click the save button, it's going to automatically save to whatever removable drive is attached. So it's just going to say, oh, I found a removable drive, and I'm just going to save to that. So in this case, if I hit save, it's going to hash it, and it's going to save it, and it tells me what drive that it wrote to. I never tell it a specific drive, so if you happen to have different USB keys attached, it's just going to randomly pick one. Reprogram that because I actually don't have encryption saved. You look on your drive and your removable disk, you'll see this. I assume that this means something, probably Samantha network key. It's a folder that'll get made there. Within it you'll see this W setting file. If you actually look at that, you'll see the configuration you put in there for your SSID, your web key if it was, if you had one in there. So that's securely hashed, so nobody could figure out what that password was. Your network authentication, which I just set ours to open. That's really just, I look at that to say, okay, on this flash drive, I have this particular router configuration sitting on it. Otherwise, you never need to look at this file.
And you can only store one on a flash drive.
You can store one regular network configuration plus one competition network configuration. So if you ran through both configurations, you'll see both. A lot of competitions, you'll see in the rules, you'll see the options to run a PIT in the background. Most competitions, you will not actually see a PIT being run. I can just tell you that from experience, even though the rules say that it'll happen. In most competitions, you won't because the venues are small and they feel that there's too much radio interference. So either you'll have the pit open ahead of time, or the pit won't be available at all, and you'll just have the competition field, and you'll do your practice times on the competition field. other thing you'll see here is this little Samantha.hex file. If for some reason you need to reflash the firmware on the Samantha, that's what this file is for. So you installed your field control system.
So when you get the Samantha directly out of your little plastic bag, do you have to program it, or is it?
You have to program it for your router, and that's literally all you have to do.
Okay.
That's what you just did.
And that's what I just did. I put the configuration on my USB key. Now, to program the Samantha itself, make sure the power's off. Stick your USB key in the USB port. Hold that. Just like that. And power it on. And you'll notice the lights go through a cycle once and then down and they blink. And then if everything is good and happy, you should see it cycle up and back on a second time. And you have to be patient for that part usually. Did it do the second time?
Yeah,
You went through the blue.
Okay.
the top and then down.
After that, we'll unplug it again. Take our USB key out. Now, with a USB printer cable, as most people know them by, connect up to your NXT and power it back on. And hopefully at this point in time you see the Wi-Fi light blink,
Which is which color?
But
which is the white one.
only one.
Yeah, see our power's getting low on our battery, because our power light's blinking. And the blue light comes on when the NXT is connected, is fully connected. White blinking means that you're connected to the router, but there's no computer connected to the Samantha. That's right. And I know that red blinking light is gonna be annoying, so let's see if this other battery's doing better. There we go. You don't wanna give it false lights. Okay, the other thing that you're gonna find in your instructions is to push two programs onto your NXT brick. Samostat, S-A-M-O-S-T-A-T, and Program Chooser. Samostat is a program that's used by the Samantha Module. It's also so we can run it and figure out that you're connected properly to the network. So after you push that onto your brick, and you go into, it's under My Files, we can't show this on the screen,
Software files.
software files, very good.
Then you go.
And you go sideways. So you find Samostat, and then run it. And that will tell you the IP address that the Samantha Module has picked up from your router, and it will tell you the route and that it's connected to the router. There's a little star that it puts next to your router, and it will report back the IP address.
So if it doesn't connect, what does it show?
You will get what we call an APIPA address. 169, yeah, it'll start with 169. That means you didn't get an IP address from something. And you might see router configurations in there, but you won't see a star next to any of them. And we can look at this afterwards. I know it's a lot to remember, right? Program Chooser is used by the field control system to switch between autonomous and teleop. So that's why that has to be on.
So when you create your program, you create it as a subprogram to be run from the program chooser, so that it can be invoked from there at.
And let's see if I can connect to my brick with Robot C here. Like I say, you don't have to, you just have to have the field control system for the drivers. So Robot C and LabVIEW know how to connect. So there's some C files that get dropped down on your machine that they go looking for. So your robot, your platform type, make sure that's NXT plus Tetrix matrix. And to connect to your brick, you want to go to the NXT brick underneath robot, and communication link setup. If you haven't pushed the firmware version down, robot's going to yell at you about that, and then it's going to look. Okay? It found the brick, but it wasn't able to connect to it. And you'll see what we call, somebody might refer to this as a Christmas tree. They call it commonly, where the lights are just cycling. Just push the little red button on top. And then the cycling should stop. And we'll repeat the search. It still tells me it wasn't available. Cycle again? Yeah, it's not cycling again. Maybe I took too long. There we go. We'll select that.
And when you set up the name of your NXT, you have to make it the name
Yes.
of your team number.
Yeah, so if you saw in that link setup, and you can name your NXT, you can either do it through here through Robot C, if you're in Robot C. So in this, you'll see 6220. So we stole a brick from 6220. Competition time for software inspection. Your brick has to have your field number. You can have another, like a letter afterwards, say if you have multiple bricks for your team. And this is just so when we're doing troubleshooting and whatnot with the field, we can say, oh, this is so-and-so team, this is so-and-so team, because you'll see it show up later. Now at this point in time in Robot C, if I had some software up here, I could do a compile and download, and it would push my software onto it, and it would bring up the debugger window. If I had joysticks attached, I would have joystick control, and I could activate the teleapp program and just drive directly through Robot C at this point in time. So that if you're back in the shop, you can handle it that way. You push the button, and then
Nope.
field control system. Many of you care about this if you want to do sample driving. The first thing it's going to do is ask for joystick setup. So at this point in time, you would just hit the button on the joystick where you would want it to be. So say this first joystick, I want to be this one, so I would just kick the joystick and go ahead, and it would just assign it to that one.
I mean, it's a really good idea to play with the field control system in your team meeting before you get to your first
Yeah.
competition.
So at scrimmages, we'll be doing this. If you've got a robot here today, we can run through this, and we can show how to do this as well. You do the choose. Right now it's there, but it looks like he thinks he's owned by something else, or he turned off. So my brick just went to sleep. So the other thing you want to do as part of your setup with your brick is turn off sleep mode. That's also a software inspection thing on the checklist, because otherwise your brick will go to sleep after 60 seconds. No, it doesn't need to be anything, it's just to be on. There we go. Now you can see it. I can select it. I can connect to it. Give it a minute, and then it analyzes, and it says, oh look, that's the battery power level of the NXT, that's the battery level power of the 12-volt battery that's attached. It's green, which means everything's there. So it's found program chooser, it's found Samostat, because it'll actually yell at us if it doesn't find those things. If there's no autonomous program configured, this is something you'll learn in your software sections between Robot C and LabVIEW. It'll tell us that. Some of the FTAs will check with the team and say, oh, do you have an autonomous program? If you do, it's not configured, we'll let them know. Some FTAs won't bother, some of us will ask them to make sure that it's set up. And from here you start your match, and it runs through a standard match, which is 30 seconds and then a minute and a half.
About 2 minutes.
Or 2 minutes, yeah.
I think, so each team will just click one of their controller buttons and it'll connect them?
Right. In a competition, we would take care of that for you, but right now for setup joysticks, I didn't bring a joystick down here. If it was attached, I can I can show you guys this out in the field too. So this afternoon I'll be out there and I'll have this set up with the field.
So all I really need is one button for each one of the.
Yeah, you hit one
joysticks.
button per controller. If you hit any more than that, it
Right.
screws up the
What
system.
happens is,
So-
however many joysticks you have, they'll all be given just a number here. And the number's irrelevant, it's a number that the computer's using. So it'll start off, and so long as you have joysticks in the list, the moment this comes up, it'll say select red one, driver one, through the speakers. It'll actually say that. So
Okay.
you pick up the joystick for red one, driver one, you push the button, and it'll go on, and the computer will say select red one, driver two. And then you pick up that one, push the button, and it'll cycle through
And
themselves.
then it goes through
And
this.
you do this once at the beginning of the day
Yes.
for the entire match.
But,
Yep.
so if you don't have all 8 joysticks, for example, you can say driver one for red one, driver one for blue one,
Yep.
driver one for red two. You can force it into other configurations. So if it's just in the shop, you don't have to have 8 joysticks or 4 joysticks in order to set it up. You can just do one set. Yes.
Where can you download the program chooser and Samosat programs?
Program Chooser and Samostat come with Robot C or LabVIEW.
Awesome.
And and there's different ways to put them on. You can copy them on with those pieces of software, or you can open them up and you can
Push them down.
compile and push them down, one or the other. So you can get them there multiple ways, but those come from LabVIEW and Robot C. They provide those as part of their package.
Is any checking done to make sure they are the correct compiled version of?
Yes, Robot C released a bad version of Samostat last year, just in time for Worlds. So make sure if you're running Robot C that you have the latest version, because they released the fix.
Bought my Robot C last February, I think.
Right, so you can upgrade to any 3.x version, so just keep running the upgrades. They have not released a new, they have released 1 or 2 updates since World now, because they released the fix for World post afterwards, and they've had one other release since then. Because that was just here a month or 2 ago, I think.
I was in the program then where the folks from Swerve were doing, Robot C. And the question was asked them, so which one, why Robot C and not LabVIEW? And they said, well, because we were more familiar with that way of program. That's all I heard, that's the answer I had. What's,
So
give us-
you will see, so Swerve has a historic preference for Robot C. And a number of programming mentors that have kind of historically driven that. So if new students have rolled in, they've just stuck with Robot C. For code reuse and a few other things, it puts them closer to the code. Some of our students actually don't like the graphical LabVIEW style interface, and where some of the FLL kids that come up that are used to that, NXTG style interface, they don't think anything of it. But my experience has been you will see more teams running Robot C than you will see running LabVIEW. That might change over time,
Can
but
you write
that's,
more complex programs with Robot C than LabVIEW?
you're closer to code. LabVIEW, you can still get to the code, I understand, and you can actually fiddle with it directly. But it just hides it from you.
It's mostly about your team's personal preference. Both codes are mostly equally capable. You'll find the teams that have people on there who really like programming, they really like programming in text-based languages, so they gravitate toward the Robot C. Again, the FLL teams use NXTG, which is the same sort of tiles and wires that is LabVIEW. So if you're familiar with LabVIEW, I don't know, but LabVIEW is a completely different paradigm of programming. It's not typing out things, it's selecting icons and putting them in line.
And figuring out how.
Connecting together.
Now, if you're gonna go, control modules and control systems, you'll see LabVIEW out in the real world.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go into programming, you're gonna see languages closer to Robot C is actually very close to C.
Yeah.
It's got all the same constructs, it can't do everything C can do, but it's got all the same programming constructs.
So LabVIEW is a lot like MATLAB Simulink, if you're familiar with that, and both of those are used in the real world, but C is used.
Yeah, for software engineering, if you're gravitating towards software engineering, you want Robot C, because that will be useful training for the future.
For the students moving on.
So, what I have right now is I have 5 kids that have been playing with the EV3 software.
Sure.
So it's the NXG.
NXG,
For
yeah.
2 months now.
Yep.
And I've got about a whole bunch of kids in my their science class who are just learning Java. And of course, when I was watching the program, this is Java with a few different words, and it's the same stuff. So. I don't know which way-
All the
I don't know
same
which way-
constructs are there, the
Yeah.
languages are different, but all the same constructs are there.
Syntax is different,
Yep.
So, right now, I don't know what to do. I don't know which way to go. I've got
Ask
most
the
pieces of
kids.
software.
Yeah, ask the kids. So you can't use NXTG in FTC this year. It's not allowed
That
to
hasn't
do
been an
that.
option for several years, but there's just no NXTG.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't use the EV3. The EV3 is not available for FTC this year, so,
So I've got the lab view.
So you've got the lab
No
view.
big deal.
and you can go back and forth. Or if you hang out on eBay, you can get an extra brick and then just have them swap out their bricks. You know, if the team's got budgets for
I've
that.
already got a couple of them now.
Yeah, so you're good on hardware, the
interesting.
question's all.
So you could have one set of kids program a brick in LabVIEW, and you could have the other set of kids program in Robot C. And frankly, they could have a software build-off between them and say, okay, you know, decide, look, all these programs are working a heck of a lot better. You wanna compete with these over here and not with these over here.
But you can't do
that's
the
choice.
autonomous with NXTG and the teleoff with,
No, it's
OSC.
the firmware, they push different, the firmware that they push down is different, so you're either gonna have to go one or the other.
One or the other. Got it.
Yes, sir.
Quick question about something I forgot about LabVIEW. I personally use Robot C and our team does, but I just want to take a LabVIEW tutorial to see what it's like. I heard the program is compiled to a very large size, and you can only hold a few on your NXT. Is that true?
So it depends on what you're doing, but yes, LabVIEW runs into space limitations before Robot C does. Most teams won't have an issue, but if you're one of those teams that has 8 different options for an autonomous and 2 different options for a teleop, you may run into problems. LabVIEW has, every year perennially, they commit to getting things a little more dense, but they do take up more space. So I think the best way to answer it, see, the problem is, at least from my perspective, LabVIEW is, that company is a big, major contributor first, and they make some excellent programs which are used in the real world by a smaller subset of people than actually use C programming. And my preference is C programming, that's a little more my background. If you look around Worlds, actually last year was the best example. You go to the FTC pit area, there was a desk for Robot C that was mobbed. There was a desk for LabVIEW that didn't even have people show up to man it, because honestly, no one was there to ask, to need questions, because the split at Worlds between LabVIEW and Robot C is pretty heavily tilted toward Robot C. Your world championship teams generally use Robot C. Now I've said that on video, so I'm in trouble.
Yeah, the other thing that you're gonna run into is code reuse and sharing. So if teams wanna share, quite honestly, so when we're at events and there's a team that needs help with LabVIEW, it's hard to find other teams that can help them with LabVIEW. It's easy to find teams that can help other teams with Robot C.
Yep.
That's another thing, it's just, the base isn't out there.
That's definitely something to think about, is if you've got teams around you that you plan on using as resources, the teams love to share. If you're not using the same
Yeah,
stuff they
teams
are.
can share code, they can share skills, there's nothing, there's no problems with that.
You'll find a lot of.
On
different
or
examples.
off, on please. Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say, for example, like we're actually using some of your code that you guys posted online.
Yeah.
For taking over the Bluetooth connection and inputting the data to an Excel spreadsheet, and that's all in Robot C.
Oh, that's some old stuff, yeah, that our team put up a few years ago.
Yeah.
We post all our code online, we're through Codeplex, so anybody can get access to any of our code at any point in time.
Yeah, I saw Mercurial.
Yeah, we've got a Mercurial repository, so you'll see swerverobotics.codeplex.com, and that's where our kids post all their code, we use it for our version control. If you go searching around, you'll find Titan Robotics, you'll find they have their code online as well, you'll find some other teams that do. Last year we were sharing not the final version, but an early version of our
This guy knows about that.
We should do something.
So,
Robin knows
that-
those.
So that happens as well. Okay, any other, what are we doing on time? We got, looking at 10:30. Field questions, Samantha questions. Like I say, later on, I'm gonna be set up out there, which if you've got stuff, we can connect and we can walk through in gory detail and show some of the stuff, so I guess
Yeah,
Why are
so-
there so many antennas on top of your building?
It's Darth Maul.
it's Darth Maul. See?
So,
I pimped it.
does Robot C have stuff to interact with it, Samantha? Because I think wait for start, right, you have to call at the beginning of Talia.
Wait for
No,
start.
or-
So if you run through the program, so there's a in the guides and in the resources. So down here you'll see the programming resources, and it talks through a lot of that stuff. So you've got to have wait for start because Robot C triggers, and that ends up, I believe it ends up being triggered by program chooser in the end, by the control system, right?
It's triggered well, but
The FCS, the field control system, when you use that for competition, ends up sending that signal. That's why you've got to have that in there.
so I guess your question really, is there a way to drive the robot through Robot C with the wait for starts in there?
There is.
That's what I heard, but
Yeah,
that's a
no,
good
there
thing.
is, they have a FPC thing.
Yeah, there is. So
Okay.
when you bring up your debugger and you bring up your joystick window, there's
Yeah.
the little buttons where you
Yeah,
say, I'm in
it's
autonomous
easier.
mode, I'm in teleop mode, oh, I gotta reset it 2 times for it to actually take, and all that other weird
Yeah.
stuff. But
And as
yeah,
of last year, you can do that through Samantha instead of Bluetooth or USB,
right.
so.
Actually, no, it's been there. Let's say it's been through Samantha for a long time. So yeah, so our students drive, they connect through Samantha for the field for all of our stuff. Actually, I hate running the Bluetooth connection, it's so buggy. I've had so many problems with it. You know, the important part for Samantha is that your router supports 802.11b, and you set it to 802.11b. If it's got a 2.4 gigahertz radio plus a 5 gigahertz radio, turn off the 5 gigahertz radio. Like I say, if it does B and G, set it to B only for a signal, and you'll have really reliable results. This is Samantha actually runs on 802.11b. That's what she does. So, we're done when they're done with questions.
Any really common problems might run into when I'm back at the shop trying to, read through the material and make this happen?
Usually in the configuration that you've got the password correct, and that it's not a long password. I found that short passwords work better if you're gonna run a password. If you run it without a wireless password, in the shop is perfectly fine. It's really for competition that we worry about making sure it's secure, so nobody can get into that signal stream. But most likely, you'll be where it's not associated, where you see the little Christmas tree lights, and then you'll have to prompt it. It drops a little association file on the NXT. And you generally only have to do that once per laptop. You'll only have to do that once. Or the Samantha won't connect at all, and then it's just reflash it again. And then every now and then we have to reset the firmware on the Samantha. That's usually few and far between these days. We generally don't need to do that very often. Yes, sir.
How does the Samantha know the Wi-Fi password if it's hacked?
It's a shared key. So there's a shared private key between the Samantha module and the configuration software. So we can hash it over here and she can unhash it over there. So, does anybody know what that private key is? John Tobes knows what that private key is. Nobody else knows what that private key is.
And the field control system isn't open source, right?
No, it is
Because
not.
I poked around on the first website.
It is, the field control system is not open source. It is only supported for competition on Windows, even though they have a version that runs on Mac. But it's not open source. You can crack it open, and you can reverse compile it, and you can with any piece of software. traffic, when you're running teleop, for example, there is a lot of network traffic going constantly. It actually works the routers pretty hard, actually, from a wireless signal standpoint. Far more traffic than you're gonna have in your house, say downloading a file or something like that from playing video games. Because it's just constant noise that it's having to send back and forth. So it's sending a joystick signal out, it's getting an acknowledgement back that it actually sent it. It's monitoring the power status of your Samantha and your connection status of your Samantha and your NXT at the same time. So it's doing all these things in the background that the FCS is taking care of. And really the only important thing that anybody cares about is that my joystick's doing something, and the constant complaint that I hear from our team students is it's not laggy.
Or it is laggy.
Or it is laggy. They don't want it to be laggy. Laggy can be a number of issues, but generally it's a problem between your laptop and your router and your Samantha. So you'll see for competitions, we always run our laptops wired wherever we're going, and that's to take one of those hops out, we have to be wireless between the router and the Samantha. And that's just to take that limit out.
Are we supposed to bring our own wire?
For competition, no, whoever your FTA is,
They've got a-
they take care of all the equipment. You're responsible for the Samantha and your brick and having programs using your Samantha on it.
You show up at competition with the robot, you'll have your own computer and joysticks for your pit.
For your pit, yeah.
At the competition field, you show up with a robot, pick up the joysticks that are there, connected to the computer system that's already set up.
So I've started to set that up out here this morning, so you can see, it's half a competition field, just because I don't have enough joysticks, but
I'm sure I'll understand it a lot better having gone through this session.
You could borrow some joysticks from us.
oh, I'm sure I can borrow lots of joysticks, but yes, thank you. If we have a need to run 4 teams at the same time, I'm sure we'll do that. Right now I can handle 2 teams at the same time. I have a feeling that'll be plenty.
Robots.
Are any joysticks better than the others?
No.
Well, I mean, there's some joysticks that have
So,
buttons on it.
so they use a PS3 style Logitech controller.
At the competition?
Yes, it's the 310 Logitech controller. They're currently $20 through Amazon.
Okay.
Very reasonably priced. They're an old controller, been around for a long time. I have fixed some of them where the number output range on them wasn't very good because the little joystick knob wasn't totally right. One, we had to replace some sets last year during a competition because the springs weren't, everybody likes to use the joystick to drive, and the springs weren't returning back to center position very well, so we had to swap out a couple controllers because of that. Other than that, I haven't seen much. I've had to fix some because they didn't send the full range of 128 to 128 for the position. So, but that's the one. So there's no Xbox controllers. There's no. It's all competition's all standardized on these PS3 style controllers.
So if I'm not getting something, I'm not gonna buy those.
Yeah. Well, like I say, Xbox controllers have the exact same buttons. They're just in a different spot, so to avoid confusing the students.
Right. You want to have exactly what you show.
You don't want to confuse your drivers. Because their thumbs are going to have this memory to them, right, after they practice for a while, and they're not going to be ready for the change. Okay, that's 10:45, is that when we're supposed to be done?
No, we can go to the top of the hour.
We can go to the top of the hour. Well, we don't want to get in the way of materials that's here after us.
Okay.
You gonna stay for Dr. Frazier's presentation? He'll be here for that. And like I say, I'm set up out there, I'll have the field set up out there. If you've got questions, we can run through stuff out there. If you've got a Samantha and a Steve, we can walk through classrooms. So you can go out, I can ask you all the exact same questions that I would ask if I was FTAing an event, and walk through that too, which hopefully you'll hear at a league when you go to one of your league events, and you'll hear it again when you do your league championship and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks. And also, I've been told that you're supposed to do these surveys as you go out. If you have time, there's pencils, and not pencils.
Yes, they want
pens,
surveys,
and
surveys they want filled out. Yeah, that's just gonna go on, he's just gonna have to edit that later, I'm afraid.
Just like,
Dad, can I take it
No,
out
it's
now?
illegal to.
Yes, you can unplug, be careful with the power cord, you have to pinch it.
Done.
Not your name on the last one.
Brian,
Brian Ehlert.
Ehlert, yes, this is Tom.
You never introduced me.
No, I never did introduce you, you're my squirt. This is
What's
Gavin.
your team number? Just so I can follow up with you and hand over Samantha.
Dad, do they have the
7465?
school go
Okay.
up like
Yeah.
And
this?
what's the school you're with or that?
That just
Sorry?
happened.
Okay.
In case I got the number wrong.
Right.
It's kind of a pain.
Dad,
Yeah,
can I
he's
take-
got resources.
Daddy, can I take everything out?
So I'll get you an answer
Thank you.
if I can.
So all
I'll
the
get you an
little
answer.
stuff, like inside the bag there, it's not bag.
So you can run a robot without the Samantha through
Yes.
just a direct wired USB or even Bluetooth, but you really want to use the Samantha as soon as you can because it's part of the competition.
If you can't
So
run
you don't wanna
Samantha,
be-
you can't do competition.
Just-
You don't want to be one of those teams
Well,
that gets
you
the
wanna get- you wanna
competition.
get used
Oh,
to
we
it as
forgot to
well.
attach that.
So
We
the
haven't used it all
joystick
year.
connects through,
The joystick
It
connects to the
happens.
laptop, which runs the field control system, which sends the signals
Tom?
through the router to Samantha.
Hi, nice to meet you.
okay.
Are you the coach of the team then? Okay.
So you'll generally see laptops, you might see desktop
Okay.
PCs, but you'll generally see laptops most of the place.
Daddy's
And
mom's vision too.
The laptop, say, so if you're running a game, your laptop can actually impact your performance as well.
Right.
So like, slow hard drives, antivirus software, low memory situations, that can affect how everything behaves and performs.
Okay.
Here you go, Daddy.
So when I have TA, I try to make sure that all that's dealt with and taken care of. I just wanna make sure that the kids have a good, fair time and, you know,
Someone doesn't
Right.
know.
that they should never, in my mind, they should never ever notice that there was ever a single problem, even if,
So when I'm setting
even if
up-
we're having problems.
Right, so when I'm setting up in my shop, so the joystick connects to the laptop.
The joystick connects to the laptop. Like I said, I'll have all this set up out here, actually, I'm gonna finish setting it up, because I used this last.
So you'll need some hubs, because you've got one USB per
Right,
joystick.
you're limited to how many joystick ports you have, so if you've got one team, you only need 2 controllers, and then however many USB ports you have. Out here, for competition, we're running 8 joysticks, so we generally need a hub, there's a maximum length that your cables can be to get to your laptop, and so we follow specs for cable length and all that kind of fun stuff, so.
Okay.
Yeah, Darth Maul.
There's one right here.
Yeah, I know, they want me to paint a face on them.
Dad, you should do that.
I know I should, paint red and black.
Well, all his horns are black.
Yep, they are. My little wiring harness.
So John's gonna come here and give the next one?
John and whoever is helping him, they're gonna talk materials.
Bye-bye.
Because I know these bushings he had to get this morning,